Rachel didn't hear the footsteps approaching. She was too lost in her own despair, too focused on trying to figure out how she'd face Tyler when she came home empty-handed again. The doctors said he needed proper nutrition to fight off the infection, but proper nutrition required money she didn't have. "Excuse me." The voice was gentle but deep, belonging to a man. Rachel wiped her eyes quickly and looked up. He was tall, dressed in an expensive Navy suit that seemed out of place at a convenience store in this part of Nashville. His dark hair had touches of gray at the temples, and his blue eyes held something she hadn't seen in a long time, genuine concern. "Are you all right?" he asked, though it was obvious she wasn't. Rachel tried to stand, embarrassed that this well-dressed stranger had witnessed her breakdown. "I'm fine. Just having a bad day." "I heard what happened inside," he said, his tone matter-of-fact rather than pitying. "You need milk for your brother." She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Wait here," he said, and before she could protest, he'd walked back into the store. Rachel stood there in the parking lot, confused and exhausted. She bent down to pick up her bread, checking to make sure it hadn't been damaged in the fall. It was all she had to feed Tyler tonight. Bread and water. Again. The man emerged from the store carrying 2 bags. He walked over and held them out to her. "I got the milk," he said, "and a few other things I thought might help." Rachel peered into the bags. Milk, eggs, chicken breast, fresh vegetables, pasta, sauce, cheese, juice, and bread. Real food. Enough for several days. "I can't accept this," she started to say, but then stopped. Her pride had kept her going for months, refusing charity, refusing to admit defeat. But looking at this stranger's kind face, remembering Tyler at home, she realized pride wouldn't cure her brother's fever. "Thank you," she said instead, her voice breaking. "Thank you so much." "What's your name?" he asked. "Rachel. Rachel Bennett." "I'm Thomas Harper." He pulled a business card from his pocket. "I own a company here in Nashville. We're always looking for good people. If you're interested in a job, call this number tomorrow morning." Rachel stared at the card. Harper Industries. She'd heard of it. Everyone in Nashville had. It was one of the largest employers in the city. "I don't have much education," she admitted. "I barely finished high school." "Education isn't everything," Thomas said. "I'm interested in people who don't give up. People who work hard and care about their families. That's what I saw in you tonight." "But you don't know me," Rachel protested. "I know enough," Thomas replied. "I know you're working 2 jobs and still trying to take care of your brother. I know you'd rather beg to pay for milk later than steal it. I know you're doing everything you can with what you have. That tells me what kind of person you are." Rachel felt tears welling up again, but this time they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of hope, a feeling she'd almost forgotten. "I'll call," she promised. "First thing in the morning." Thomas smiled. "Good. And Rachel, things are going to get better. Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us." He walked to a black sedan parked near the store entrance, leaving Rachel standing in the parking lot, holding 2 bags of groceries and a business card that felt like a lifeline. She made her way to the bus stop, clutching the bags carefully. The route home took 40 minutes, winding through Nashville streets as the sun set behind the buildings. Usually, the long ride depressed her, watching the neighborhoods improve as the bus headed toward downtown before deteriorating again near her apartment. Tonight, she barely noticed. She kept touching the business card in her pocket, making sure it was real. Tyler was asleep on the couch when she got home. Their apartment was small, just 1 bedroom that Rachel had given to her brother, sleeping on the couch herself. The furniture was mismatched, found at yard sales or on curbs. But it was clean. Rachel made sure of that, scrubbing and organizing in any spare moment she had. She put the groceries away quietly, her heart lifting at the sight of the full refrigerator. Then she made Tyler his favorite meal, scrambled eggs and toast with a big glass of milk. When she woke him, his face lit up. "You got milk," he said, his voice raspy from coughing. "I got lots of things," Rachel told him, sitting beside him while he ate. She told him about Thomas Harper, about the business card, about the possible job. Tyler's eyes, so much like their mother's before she left, filled with tears. "Maybe things are finally looking up, Rach." "Maybe they are," she agreed, squeezing his hand. Maybe they really are. That night, Rachel lay on the couch staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, she let herself imagine a future where she wasn't constantly afraid. Where Tyler could go to the doctor without her having to choose between his health and their rent. Where she could buy groceries without counting every penny. Where they could be a real family again. She thought about Thomas Harper's words. Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us. Someone believed in her now. A stranger had shown her kindness when she'd needed it most. And tomorrow, she'd take the first step toward a better life. Rachel closed her eyes, Thomas's business card still in her hand, and for the first time in a year, she fell asleep without crying. Rachel stood outside the glass doors of Harper Industries at exactly 8 in the morning. The building was modern and impressive, all steel and windows reaching toward the Nashville sky. She'd borrowed a skirt and blouse from her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, and spent an hour making sure her auburn hair was neat. She looked presentable, even if her clothes weren't expensive. Her hands shook as she dialed the number on Thomas's card. A receptionist answered and, to Rachel's surprise, put her through immediately. Rachel, Thomas's voice came through warm and welcoming. I'm glad you called. Come up to the 15th floor. I'll meet you there. The elevator ride felt like an eternity. Rachel watched the numbers climb, each one taking her further from her old life. Or maybe towards something new. She wasn't sure which scared her more. Thomas was waiting when the doors opened. He looked different in daylight, less intimidating somehow. He wore dress pants and a crisp blue shirt with no tie, his sleeves rolled up like he'd already been working for hours. Thank you for coming, he said, shaking her hand. How's your brother? Better, Rachel said, touched that he remembered. The food you bought made a real difference. Good, Thomas said, leading her down a hallway lined with offices. I want to show you around, introduce you to some people. Then we'll talk about what position might work for you. Rachel followed, taking in everything. The walls displayed photos of company events, holiday parties, charity fundraisers, team building days. Everyone in the pictures looked happy, genuinely happy. Not the forced smiles she was used to seeing in corporate settings. This is Diane Mitchell, Thomas said, stopping at a corner office. She manages our administrative team. Diane was a woman in her 50s with kind gray eyes and a warm smile. She stood and reached out to shake Rachel's hand. Thomas told me about you. It's wonderful to meet you. Nice to meet you too, Rachel managed, feeling out of place in her borrowed clothes. Diane is the heart of this office, Thomas explained. She keeps everything running smoothly and takes care of our people. If you work here, you'll be seeing a lot of her. They continued the tour, meeting more employees. Greg Patterson in accounting, a cheerful man who immediately cracked jokes to put Rachel at ease. Jennifer Ross in human resources, professional but friendly. Mark Stevens in operations, who shook her hand firmly and welcomed her. Everyone was nice. Not fake nice, but genuinely warm. It felt like a family rather than a corporation. Finally, Thomas led her to his office on the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Nashville, the city spread out below them. Rachel had never seen anything like it. Sit, Thomas said, gesturing to a comfortable chair across from his desk. Tell me about yourself. What jobs have you been doing? Rachel took a breath and told him everything. Working at Murphy's Diner since she was 18, taking the night shift cleaning offices when Tyler got sick, and the medical bills piled up. How their mother had left 2 years ago when things got hard, just disappeared one day without explanation. How Rachel had quit her dreams of going to college to take care of her brother. How she was barely keeping them afloat despite working 70 hours a week. Thomas listened without interrupting, his expression serious and attentive. Here's what I'm thinking, he said when she finished. We need an administrative assistant for our project management team. It's entry-level, but it pays well and has full benefits. Health insurance, dental, vision. That would cover Tyler's medical care. Rachel's breath caught. Health insurance. She hadn't had that since she turned 18 and aged out of state coverage. The job involves organizing schedules, managing documents, helping coordinate projects. It requires attention to detail and good communication. Based on what you've told me about juggling 2 jobs and taking care of a sick teenager, I think you can handle it. I can, Rachel said firmly. I'll work harder than anyone. I promise. I don't doubt it, Thomas said, smiling. But I also want you to know something. This isn't charity. I'm not hiring you because I feel sorry for you. I'm hiring you because I think you'll be good at this job and because you're the kind of person I want on my team. People who understand struggle make better employees. They appreciate opportunities. They work with purpose. When would I start? Rachel asked, hardly daring to believe this was real. Monday, Thomas said. That gives you time to give notice at your other jobs. The pay is $4,000 to $5,000 a year to start, with raises based on performance. You'll work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. No more night shifts. No more splitting yourself in half. 4,000 to 5,000. Rachel did the mental math. That was more than she made at both jobs combined, and it was regular hours. She'd see Tyler in the evenings. She'd sleep at night. They could get an apartment in a better neighborhood. Tyler could finish high school without worrying about money. Thank you, she said, and this time she didn't try to stop the tears. You don't know what this means to us. I think I do, Thomas said quietly. 25 years ago, I was sleeping in my car and eating one meal a day. A man named Richard Coleman gave me a job at his warehouse. Didn't ask for a resume or references. Just gave me a chance. He died 10 years ago, but before he passed, I promised him I'd do the same for others. That I'd pay forward what he'd given me. That's beautiful, Rachel said. That's how the world should work, Thomas replied. We help each other. We'll lift each other up. Success isn't just about making money. It's about using that success to make a difference. He stood and walked to a cabinet, pulling out some papers. These are your hiring documents. Take them home, fill them out, and bring them back Monday morning. Diane will get you set up with a workspace and introduce you to the project management team. Rachel took the papers with shaking hands. This was really happening. Her life was changing, all because a stranger had overheard her begging for milk and decided to care. I won't let you down, she promised. I know you won't, Thomas said, walking her to the door. And Rachel, when you're settled and stable, remember this feeling. Remember how it felt to have someone believe in you. And when you see someone else struggling, be the person who reaches out. That's how we change the world, one act of kindness at a time. Rachel nodded, unable to speak past the emotion clogging her throat. She rode the elevator down in a daze, walked out into the Nashville sunshine, and sat on a bench outside the building. She pulled out her phone and called Tyler. He was supposed to be resting, but she knew he'd want to hear this. Rach, his voice came through, concerned. Everything okay? Everything's perfect, she said, laughing through tears. Tyler, I got the job. A real job with insurance and everything. We're going to be okay. We're really going to be okay. She heard her brother crying on the other end of the line, and she cried too. Happy tears this time. Grateful tears. Hopeful tears. When she hung up, Rachel sat on that bench for a long time, watching people walk by. Business people in suits, students with backpacks, tourists taking pictures. Normal people living normal lives. Soon, she'd be one of them. No more choosing between rent and food. No more fear. Just a chance. A second chance at the life she'd always dreamed of. All because one man had chosen kindness when he could have just walked away. Monday morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming through the bus windows as Rachel headed to Harper Industries. She wore the same borrowed outfit, but she'd purchased a new notebook and pen with her last paycheck from the diner. Small things, but they felt significant. Professional. Tyler had hugged her goodbye that morning with tears in his eyes. The fever had broken over the weekend, and he looked healthier already. Hope, Rachel realized, was powerful medicine. Diane was waiting at reception when Rachel arrived. Welcome to your first day, she said, her smile genuine and warm. Ready to jump in? Absolutely, Rachel replied, meaning it. Diane led her through the main floor, pointing out the break room, the restrooms, the supply closet. We're casual here, she explained. Thomas believes happy employees do better work, so we focus on people first. You'll never be asked to choose between your job and your family. If Tyler needs you, you leave. No questions asked. Rachel blinked back tears. At the diner, Calling out for a sick brother meant risking her job. Hey? It was expected that family came first. Her workspace was a desk in an open area near the project management team. It had a computer, a phone, filing cabinets, and a window view. Rachel had never had a window at work before. She ran her hand over the smooth desk surface, barely believing this was hers. "This is Greg Patterson," Diane said, introducing the accountant Rachel had met during her tour. "He sits right over there, so if you need anything, he's a good person to ask." "Welcome aboard," Greg said cheerfully. "We're glad to have you. The last person in this role left to have a baby, so we've been drowning in unorganized files for 2 months." "I'm good at organizing," Rachel said confidently. It was true. When your life was chaos, you learned to create order wherever you could. The morning flew by in a blur of computer passwords, training videos, and meeting the project management team. There was Catherine Walsh, a senior project manager who spoke quickly and smiled rarely, but seemed fair. Brian Foster, a junior manager who cracked jokes and made Rachel feel welcome. And Melissa Grant, another junior manager who immediately showed Rachel photos of her 2 young daughters. "We're working on 3 major projects right now," Catherine explained during lunch, which the team ate together in a conference room. A new manufacturing facility in Memphis, a hospital expansion in Chattanooga, and a shopping complex in Knoxville. "Your job is to keep all the paperwork organized, schedule meetings, take notes, and basically make sure nothing falls through the cracks." "I can do that," Rachel said, taking notes in her new notebook. "I'm sure you can," Catherine said. "Thomas doesn't hire people who can't handle the work. He has a gift for seeing potential in people." After lunch, Rachel dove into the filing system, or lack thereof. Months of disorganization met her, but instead of feeling overwhelmed, she felt energized. This was a problem she could solve. A way to prove her worth. She stayed late that first day, determined to make a good impression. At 6 o'clock, Thomas appeared at her desk. "You should go home," he said gently. "Tyler's probably waiting for you." "I just want to finish sorting these contracts," Rachel said, looking up from the files spread across her desk. "The contracts will be here tomorrow," Thomas replied. "But Tyler is only 16 once. Go home. Have dinner with your brother. That's an order." Rachel smiled and started packing up. "Thank you for everything." "Thank yourself," Thomas said. "You're the one doing the work." The bus ride home felt different now. Rachel wasn't exhausted and despairing. She was tired from a good day's work, thinking about tasks she'd accomplished and challenges she'd tackle tomorrow. When she walked into the apartment, Tyler had dinner waiting, spaghetti, made with the groceries Thomas had bought. "How was it?" he asked eagerly. Rachel sat down and told him everything. About Diane's kindness, Greg's jokes, the huge projects she'd be helping manage. About having her own desk with a window. About Thomas reminding her to come home at a reasonable hour. "He sounds like a really good guy," Tyler said. "He is," Rachel agreed. "I still can't believe this is real." Over the next few weeks, Rachel settled into her new life. She organized the project files, creating a system that made Catherine actually smile. She started arriving early and leaving on time, proving her dedication without sacrificing time with Tyler. She made friends with her co-workers, joining them for lunch and learning their stories. Diane took her shopping one Saturday, helping her buy professional clothes now that she had a steady paycheck. "You need to look the part," Diane said kindly. "Not because appearance matters more than ability, but because feeling professional helps you be professional." Rachel chose simple pieces in bright colors, a red blouse, a green dress, a blue blazer. Nothing flashy, but nice. Clean. New. His. She learned that Greg was paying his way through night school, working toward an MBA. That Melissa was a single mom who Thomas had hired 5 years ago when she was homeless. That Catherine had been with the company since the beginning, one of Thomas's first employees when Harper Industries was just him and a rented office. Everyone had a story. Everyone had been helped in some way. Thomas built his company on second chances and proved daily that kindness and business success weren't mutually exclusive. One afternoon, Rachel was filing documents in Catherine's office when she noticed a photograph on the wall. A younger Thomas with an older man, both smiling at a construction site. "That's Richard Coleman," Catherine said, noticing Rachel's interest. the man who gave Thomas his start. This whole company exists because Richard believed in helping people. Thomas told me about him, Rachel said softly. Richard used to say that money is just paper, but opportunity is gold, Catherine continued. Thomas took that lesson to heart. Half the people here were hired because Thomas saw potential, not because they had impressive resumes. Rachel thought about that as she returned to her desk. She'd spent so long feeling worthless, like her lack of education and difficult circumstances made her less than others. But here, her past struggles were seen as strengths. Her determination mattered more than her credentials. That evening, Thomas stopped by her desk again. "How are you settling in?" he asked. "Really well," Rachel said honestly. "Thank you for this chance." "You're earning your place here," Thomas said. "Catherine told me you've organized 5 years of contracts in 3 weeks. That's impressive work." Rachel felt her face heat with pride. "I like solving problems." "Good," Thomas said. "Because I have another problem that needs solving. Our charitable foundation is planning a community event next month. We're going to feed families in need and provide resources to help them. I'd like you to help coordinate it. Are you interested?" Rachel's heart swelled. Helping others the way she'd been helped? "Yes," she said immediately. "I'd love to." "Perfect," Thomas said. "We'll meet tomorrow to discuss details." After he walked away, Rachel sat at her desk with a window view, in an office full of kind people, working for a man who believed in second chances. 2 months ago, she'd been collapsing in a parking lot, unable to afford milk. Now she was coordinating charity events and making a real difference. Sometimes, Rachel thought, the world surprises you with its goodness. Sometimes, when you least expect it, someone reaches out a hand and pulls you up. And sometimes, that one act of kindness changes absolutely everything. The community event consumed Rachel's evenings for the next month. She coordinated with vendors, organized volunteers, arranged for food donations, and compiled resource lists for struggling families. Thomas had given her a budget and complete trust, and she was determined to make it perfect. Tyler helped in the evenings, stuffing envelopes with information about job training programs, affordable housing resources, and food banks. His health had improved dramatically with regular meals and the health insurance that covered his doctor visits. He'd even gained weight, losing the gaunt look that had scared Rachel for so long. "This is going to help so many people," Tyler said one night, sealing another envelope. "Just like Mr. Harper helped us." "That's the point," Rachel agreed. "Nobody should have to go hungry or feel hopeless. If we can make even one person's life better, it's worth it." She meant it. Working on the event had shown her just how many families in Nashville were struggling. Single parents working 3 jobs. Elderly people choosing between medicine and food. Kids going to bed hungry. She'd been one of them, and now she had the power to help. The event was scheduled for a Saturday in October at Nashville's Riverside Park. Rachel arrived at dawn to oversee setup, wearing jeans and a bright green Harper Industries volunteer shirt. Dozens of other employees were already there, unloading trucks and arranging tables. Thomas showed up in similar attire, rolling up his sleeves to help set up canopies. Rachel watched him work alongside everyone else, not acting like the boss, but like part of the team. It was how he always operated, leading by example rather than from above. "Looking good," he said, surveying the growing setup. "You've done an amazing job organizing this." "I had a lot of help," Rachel said, but she felt proud. The park was transforming into a welcoming space with food stations, resource tables, a children's play area, and seating for hundreds. By 9 o'clock, families started arriving. Rachel saw her past in their faces, the worry, the exhaustion, the hesitation about accepting help. She greeted each person warmly, making sure they felt welcome rather than judged. At the food line, she spotted a young woman probably her own age, holding a toddler and looking overwhelmed. Rachel approached gently. "Hi, I'm Rachel. Welcome. Can I help you get set up?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know where to start." "Start with food," Rachel said kindly. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday morning." Rachel's heart clenched. She knew that desperation intimately. She took the woman to the front of the line, helped her fill 2 plates, then sat with her while she ate. "I lost my job 3 weeks ago," the woman explained between bites. Daycare was too expensive, so I had to quit. Now I'm behind on rent, and I don't know what to do. We have resources that can help, Rachel assured her. Job training programs with free childcare, rental assistance, food banks. You're not alone in this. They spent an hour going through options. Rachel connected her with Catherine, who was volunteering at the job resources table. By the time the woman left, she had applications for 2 training programs, information about affordable childcare, and bags of groceries to take home. Thank you, she said, hugging Rachel tightly. You gave me hope. Rachel hugged her back, remembering Thomas's words from that parking lot. Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us. The event ran until evening. They served over 500 families, connected people with jobs and services, and gave away tons of food and supplies. Local news crews covered it, interviewing Thomas about Harper Industries' commitment to the community. "We only as strong as our neighbors," Thomas told the cameras. "When we lift others up, we all rise together. This isn't charity. It's community. It's how we should always operate." As volunteers cleaned up after dark, Rachel found herself standing with Diane, watching Thomas help load the last trucks. "He does this kind of thing all the time," Diane said quietly. "Anonymously pays people's medical bills when he hears they're struggling. Creates scholarships for employees' kids. Helps families facing eviction. Most people never know it's him." "Why doesn't he take credit?" Rachel asked. "Because it's not about credit," Diane replied. "It's about actually helping people. Thomas believes wealth is a responsibility, not just a privilege. He could retire and live comfortably forever, but instead he works every day to create more opportunities for others." Rachel thought about that. She'd always assumed rich people were out of touch with normal struggles. But Thomas understood because he'd lived it. He knew what it meant to be hungry, afraid, desperate. And he'd committed his life to making sure fewer people had to feel that way. On Monday, Rachel found a note on her desk from Thomas. "The event was a tremendous success because of your hard work and dedication. You have a gift for connecting with people and organizing complex projects. I'm proud of you. Th." She tucked the note into her desk drawer, a physical reminder that her life had changed, that she mattered, that her work made a difference. Over the following weeks, Rachel continued volunteering at the community center every Saturday. She tutored kids who struggled in school. She helped adults fill out job applications. She organized donation drives. Tyler often joined her, and together they became fixtures in the community. One Saturday, a woman approached her at the center. "I heard you used to work at Murphy's Diner," she said. "My daughter just got hired there, but they are treating her terribly. Making her work off the clock, yelling at her. She's afraid to quit because she needs the money." Rachel's jaw tightened. She'd experienced the same treatment. "Have her call me," she said, giving the woman her number. "We might be able to find her something better." When the woman's daughter called, Rachel connected her with Diane at Harper Industries. Within a week, the young woman had a job in the mailroom, entry-level but fair, with decent pay and respect. "You didn't have to do that," Diane said when Rachel thanked her. "Yes, I did," Rachel replied. "Someone did it for me. Now it's my turn to pass it forward." That became her mission. Every time she heard about someone struggling, she tried to help. A homeless man who needed a job got connected with the company's warehouse. A single dad who couldn't afford car repairs got a loan from the Employee Emergency Fund Thomas had established. A teenager aging out of foster care got help applying for college scholarships. Rachel wasn't rich or powerful, but she had resources now. Connections. Knowledge. And she used every bit of it to help others climb the same ladder she'd climbed. One evening, Thomas called her into his office. "I've been watching what you're doing," he said. "The volunteer work, helping people find jobs, organizing donation drives. You're taking the lessons you learned and multiplying them." "Someone helped me," Rachel said simply. "Now I help others. That's how it should work." "That's exactly how it should work," Thomas agreed. "Rachel, I want to promote you. I'm creating a new position, Community Relations Coordinator. You'd work on company charity projects, manage employee volunteer programs, and act as a liaison between Harper Industries and community organizations. The pay is $60,000, and you'd have an assistant to help with the workload. What do you think? Rachel's eyes widened. A promotion. More money. A position that let her help people as her actual job. Yes, she said immediately. Absolutely yes. Thomas smiled. Good. You start next month. You've earned this, Rachel. You took a chance someone gave you and turned it into something bigger. That's the kind of person I want leading our community efforts. That night, Rachel told Tyler about the promotion. They celebrated with pizza and soda, laughing and making plans for the future. I'm so proud of you, Tyler said. You could have just accepted Mr. Harper's help and moved on. But instead, you're helping dozens of other people. Hundreds, Rachel corrected. And I'm just getting started. She meant it. This was her purpose. Her calling. She'd been given a second chance, and she'd spend the rest of her life making sure others got second chances too. Because kindness wasn't just about one person helping another. It was about creating a wave of compassion that spread and grew, touching more lives than anyone could count. And Rachel was determined to make that wave as big as possible. Rachel's new position came with an actual office, small but hers, with a door she could close and a window overlooking downtown Nashville. On her first day as Community Relations Coordinator, she found fresh flowers on her desk and a card signed by the entire staff. You inspire us, it read. Her assistant turned out to be Greg from accounting. He'd asked Thomas for a transfer, wanting to do more hands-on community work. Together, they made an effective team, Rachel with her passion and connections, Greg with his organizational skills and financial expertise. First project, Rachel announced at their initial meeting. I want to create a mentorship program. Pair Harper Industries employees with kids who need guidance. Kids like Tyler, who don't have stable adults in their lives. I love it, Greg said immediately. Let me run some budget numbers. They spent weeks developing the program. Rachel visited schools in struggling neighborhoods, talking to counselors about students who could benefit from mentoring. She created training materials for employee volunteers. She set up a system to match mentors with mentees based on interests and needs. The program launched in November with 20 matches. Tyler was paired with Brian from Project Management, who shared his love of computers and technology. Within weeks, Brian was teaching Tyler basic coding and talking to him about career paths in tech. Rachel watched her brother transform. His grades improved. He talked about college. He smiled more. Having someone believe in his potential was changing his life, just like Thomas had changed his. But Rachel's talents extended beyond organizing programs. One morning, while reviewing vendor contracts for a company charity event, she noticed something odd. The catering company was charging significantly more than market rate, nearly double what comparable services cost. She mentioned it to Greg, who pulled up past invoices. The same vendor had been overcharging for years. Should we tell Thomas? Rachel asked. Definitely, Greg agreed. They brought their findings to Thomas that afternoon. He reviewed the documents carefully, his expression darkening. Good catch, he said finally. We've been overpaying this vendor for 3 years. That's money that could have helped more families or paid employees better. I can get quotes from other caterers, Rachel offered. I've been networking with vendors for all our events. I know several who would charge fair prices. Do it, Thomas said. And Rachel, this kind of attention to detail doesn't go unnoticed. You just saved the company tens of thousands of dollars. Within a week, Rachel had negotiated a new contract with a different catering company, better food at 40% lower cost. The savings went directly into the charitable foundation's budget. But that wasn't the only issue Rachel discovered. While organizing files for the mentorship program, she noticed irregularities in the education fund Thomas had established for employees' children. The fund manager seemed to be dragging out application processes, making families jump through unnecessary hoops. Rachel spent an evening digging through paperwork. She found dozens of qualified applications that had been rejected or delayed for questionable reasons. Families who genuinely needed help were being turned away on technicalities. She brought it to Thomas the next morning, along with proposed changes to make the process more accessible and fair. Thomas read through her notes, his jaw tight. The whole point of that fund is to help people, he said. Not create barriers. Can you take it over? Me. Rachel asked, surprised. You understand what these families are facing, Thomas explained. You know the difference this money can make. And clearly, you care about making sure it gets to people who need it. Rachel accepted the responsibility. Within a month, she'd streamlined the application process, approved 17 previously rejected applications, and increased the number of families receiving assistance by 50%. Every approved application felt personal. Another kid who'd get to go to college, another family with one less financial worry. Thomas took notice of her growing impact. In December, he invited her to a board meeting to present the community program's results. Rachel had never addressed a board before, but she prepared thoroughly, creating a presentation that showed the human impact behind the numbers. This year, Harper Industries has directly helped over 800 families, she told the board members. But the real number is much higher. Every person we help goes on to help others. The woman who got job training and now works here, she volunteers at a food bank on weekends. The man who received emergency funds for car repairs, he's now driving elderly neighbors to doctor appointments. The kid in our mentorship program, he's tutoring younger students at his school. Kindness multiplies. It spreads. Every dollar we invest in people returns tenfold in community benefit. The board members listened intently. When she finished, they applauded. Impressive presentation, said Margaret Reynolds, one of the longest-serving board members. Thomas, where did you find her? In a convenience store parking lot, Thomas replied simply, crying because she couldn't afford milk for her brother. Margaret's eyes widened. And now she's presenting to the board and managing multiple programs. That's what happens when you give talented people a chance, Thomas said, smiling at Rachel. They exceed every expectation. After the meeting, Margaret approached Rachel. I run a nonprofit that helps homeless women find housing and jobs. We could use someone with your skills and passion. Would you be interested in consulting for us? I'd love to, Rachel said. Her role at Harper Industries kept her busy, but she made time anyway. Every evening after work, she spent an hour helping Margaret's organization improve their programs. She reviewed their processes, suggested improvements, connected them with resources. The work energized rather than exhausted her. She'd found her calling, using her own experiences with struggle to help others escape that same struggle. One Saturday at the community center, Rachel met a young woman named Beth Collins. Beth was 19, newly homeless, and terrified. Her situation was almost identical to what Rachel's had been, barely scraping by, caring for a younger sibling, drowning in bills and fear. Rachel spent the entire day with Beth. She helped her apply for jobs, including an opening at Harper Industries. She connected her with emergency housing assistance. She gave her groceries and her own phone number. Call me anytime, Rachel said. Day or night. You're not alone. 2 weeks later, Beth got hired as a receptionist at Harper Industries. Diane took her under her wing, just as she'd done for Rachel. The cycle continued. On Christmas Eve, Thomas hosted a party for all Harper Industries employees and their families. The office was decorated with lights and tinsel, tables loaded with food. Rachel brought Tyler, who spent the evening talking technology with Brian and asking Thomas about college recommendations. Near the end of the party, Thomas called for everyone's attention. I want to recognize someone special, he said. Rachel Bennett joined us less than a year ago. In that time, she's transformed our community programs, saved the company significant money, improved countless lives, and inspired all of us to do better. Rachel, would you come up here? Rachel walked to the front, her face burning with embarrassment and pride. Thomas handed her an envelope. This is your Christmas bonus. But more than that, it's a thank you. For reminding us all why we do this work. For showing us that the best investment we can make is in people. Rachel opened the envelope and gasped. The check was for $10,000. I can't accept this, she started to say. Yes, you can, Thomas said firmly. You earned it. And I hope you'll use some of it to treat yourself and Tyler to something special. You deserve that. Rachel hugged him, crying happy tears. Around them, employees applauded. Tyler was crying too, proud of his sister. Later, as the party wound down, Rachel stood by the windows looking out at Nashville's lights. A year ago, She'd been desperate and hopeless. Now she had a career, financial security, purpose, and the ability to help others. All because one man had chosen kindness. And now she was spreading that kindness as far and wide as she could. The city lights twinkled below, each one representing a person, a family, a story. And Rachel was determined to make as many of those stories end happily as possible. January brought new challenges and opportunities. The mentorship program was expanding to 3 more schools. Rachel spent mornings visiting classrooms, afternoons training employee volunteers, and evenings developing curriculum materials. Greg had hired an intern to help with logistics, freeing Rachel to focus on the bigger picture. But it was the Community Connections event in February that consumed most of her energy. Thomas had committed Harper Industries to partnering with 12 local nonprofits for a massive resource fair. The goal was to create a one-stop place where struggling families could access everything they needed: food assistance, job training, housing help, medical care, education resources, legal aid, counseling services, and more. "This is huge," Greg said, reviewing the planning checklist. "We're talking about coordinating a dozen organizations, hundreds of volunteers, and hopefully thousands of attendees." "We can handle it," Rachel said confidently. She'd learned that when you truly cared about something, you found a way to make it work. She reached out to every nonprofit in Nashville that served struggling families. Most jumped at the chance to participate. Within weeks, Rachel had commitments from organizations, helping everyone from homeless veterans to single mothers to elderly people living on fixed incomes to refugees starting new lives in America. The event was scheduled for a Saturday in late February at Nashville's Convention Center. Thomas had rented the space for free through a connection, and local businesses donated everything from food to printed materials. Tyler helped after school, stuffing folders with information and assembling welcome bags. "This is like the event last fall but 10 times bigger," he observed. "That's the idea," Rachel said. "If we're going to help people, let's help as many as possible." 2 weeks before the event, the local news station called asking for an interview. Rachel agreed, though talking on camera made her nervous. She wore her bright blue blazer and met the reporter at the convention center. "Tell us about this event," the reporter said, camera rolling. Rachel took a breath and spoke from her heart. "A year ago, I couldn't afford to buy milk for my sick brother. I was working myself to exhaustion and still couldn't make ends meet. Someone helped me, and it changed everything. This event is about making sure other families get that same help. Nobody should have to choose between food and medicine. Nobody should feel hopeless. We're bringing together resources to lift people up, because that's what communities do." The interview aired that evening. By morning, Rachel's phone was ringing constantly. Other businesses wanted to donate. More volunteers signed up. Families called asking how they could attend. The news coverage also caught the attention of Nashville's business community. Margaret Reynolds from the nonprofit board called Rachel. "I have some wealthy friends who'd like to support your event financially. Can you meet with them?" Rachel agreed, though the idea of meeting wealthy donors intimidated her. She met them at a downtown restaurant. 5 business owners who'd seen the news coverage and wanted to help. "How much funding do you need?" one asked directly. Rachel had prepared budget numbers. "We could use $5,000 for food, $3,000 for printed materials, $2,000 for childcare during the event, and another $5,000 for emergency assistance cards we're giving to attendees who need immediate help with bills or groceries." "Consider it done," another donor said, pulling out her checkbook. "I'll cover the food and materials. Robert, you take the childcare." "Absolutely," Robert agreed. By the end of lunch, they'd raised $20,000. Rachel sat there stunned, watching these successful people commit serious money without hesitation. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because you're doing it," one of the donors replied. "You could have accepted help and moved on with your life. Instead, you're dedicating yourself to helping others. That's the kind of work we want to support." Rachel reported back to Thomas, who smiled proudly. "You're building something bigger than one company's charity efforts," he said. "You're creating a network of people committed to helping each other. That's powerful." The event day arrived cold but clear. Rachel arrived at dawn to oversee setup, wearing her bright red Harper Industries shirt. The convention center buzzed with activity as volunteers transformed empty halls into welcoming spaces. By 8 o'clock, a line had formed outside. Hundreds of families waited patiently. Rachel walked the line greeting people, making sure everyone felt welcome. "This is going to help so many families," a young mother told her, holding a baby. "Thank you for doing this." "Thank you for coming," Rachel replied warmly. "That's what makes it matter." The doors opened at 9. Families poured in, some overwhelmed, some hopeful, all needing help. Rachel moved through the crowd, directing people to appropriate resources, answering questions, offering encouragement. At the food bank table, she watched a grandmother fill bags with groceries, tears streaming down her face. At the medical clinic booth, a father signed up for free health screenings for his kids. At the job training area, young people filled out applications for programs that would teach them marketable skills. Midday, the local news returned to film the crowds and interview attendees. One woman told the camera, "I didn't know these resources existed. I've been struggling alone for so long. Today, I found help with rent, food, my kids' medical care, and someone who's going to help me find a better job. This saved my life." Rachel overheard and had to step away to compose herself. That was why she did this. Those exact moments when hope replaced despair. Thomas found her in a quiet hallway. "You okay?" "Better than okay," Rachel said, wiping her eyes. "This is everything I hoped it would be." "You did this," Thomas said. "You made this happen." "We made it happen," Rachel corrected. "All of us together." The event ran until evening. They served over 2,000 families. Non-profits made thousands of connections. The emergency assistance cards helped 50 families pay overdue bills and buy groceries that same day. The medical clinic provided free health screenings to hundreds of people who hadn't seen a doctor in years. As volunteers cleaned up, Rachel was conducting a walkthrough with the non-profit leaders discussing what worked and what could improve for next time. "Next time?" Margaret asked, smiling. "You're already planning another?" "Of course," Rachel said. "This can't be a one-time thing. We need to do this quarterly, maybe monthly." The non-profit leaders agreed enthusiastically. They set a date for the next event, May. That evening, exhausted but fulfilled, Rachel and Tyler rode the bus home. She'd barely slept in weeks, but she wasn't tired. She was energized. "You're kind of amazing, you know that," Tyler said. Rachel laughed. "I'm just doing what someone did for me." "No," Tyler said seriously. "You're doing more. Mr. Harper helped us. But you're helping hundreds of people. Maybe thousands. You took what he gave you and multiplied it." Rachel thought about that. Maybe Tyler was right. She'd been given a second chance, and she'd built something meaningful from it. Not just for herself, but for her entire community. The next week, articles about the event appeared in multiple publications. A Nashville magazine wanted to profile Rachel. The mayor's office called asking if Harper Industries would partner with the city on similar initiatives. Thomas called Rachel into his office. "You've put Harper Industries on the map as a leader in community service," he said. "More than that, you've shown people that businesses can be profitable and compassionate. That success and kindness aren't opposites." "I learned that from you," Rachel said. "Maybe," Thomas replied. "But you took it further than I ever did." "Rachel, the board wants to make you Director of Community Relations. It comes with a significant raise and the authority to expand programs citywide. What do you think?" Director. Rachel had been at the company less than 2 years and was already being offered a director position. It felt surreal. "I think I need to say yes before you change your mind," she said, laughing. Thomas laughed too. "Good answer. You've earned this, Rachel. You're changing lives. Keep doing that." Rachel left his office walking on air. She called Tyler immediately. Guess who just became a director? His excited yelling through the phone made her laugh. They celebrated that night with takeout from Tyler's favorite restaurant, something they could afford now, without worry. As Rachel fell asleep on her actual bed in their 2-bedroom apartment, she thought about how far they'd come. From desperate poverty to comfortable stability. From hopelessness to purpose. And this was just the beginning. She had so much more to do, so many more people to help. The wave of kindness was growing, spreading wider than she'd ever imagined possible. And Rachel was determined to keep it growing until it touched every struggling family in Nashville. March arrived with unseasonably warm weather and unexpected problems. Rachel was in her office reviewing plans for the May Resource Fair when Diane appeared in the doorway, her usually calm expression troubled. "We have a situation," Diane said quietly. "Can you come to Thomas's office?" Rachel followed her upstairs where Thomas, Catherine, and several board members were gathered around a conference table covered with newspapers and printed articles. "What's wrong?" Rachel asked. Thomas slid a newspaper across to her. The headline read, "Harper Industries, Charity or Tax Scheme." Rachel's stomach dropped. She scanned the article. It claimed Harper Industries used charitable programs as tax write-offs while treating employees poorly and cutting corners on projects. It quoted anonymous sources accusing the company of being all show and no substance. "This is ridiculous," Rachel said immediately. "None of this is true. I see how you treat employees every day." "We know that," Thomas said calmly. "The problem is our competitors don't. This is coming from Lexington Development. They are bidding against us on the Memphis manufacturing project. If they can damage our reputation, they might win the contract." "So what do we do?" Rachel asked. "We prove them wrong," Thomas said firmly. "We document everything. Every program, every employee benefit, every dollar spent on community work. And we show the city of Memphis exactly what Harper Industries stands for." The next 2 weeks were intense. Rachel worked with Catherine pulling together documentation, employee testimonials, financial records, photos from community events, statistics on families helped. She reached out to nonprofits they'd partnered with, asking for statements about their work together. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of organizations wrote letters praising Harper Industries' genuine commitment to community service. Former employees sent emails about how the company had changed their lives. Families they'd helped recorded video testimonials. Rachel compiled everything into a comprehensive report. She worked late into the night, determined to show the truth about Thomas and the company he'd built. But the rumors had already spread. Some employees were worried about job security. A few started updating their resumes, afraid the company might fail. Morale dropped noticeably. Thomas called an all-staff meeting on a Friday afternoon. Everyone gathered in the main conference room, concern evident on faces. "I know you've seen the articles," Thomas began. "I know there are rumors and worries. So I want to be completely transparent with you." He spent an hour explaining everything. The accusations, the competition for the Memphis contract, the company's actual financial health. He showed them the documentation Rachel had compiled. "These accusations are false," Thomas said firmly. "But more importantly, even if we lost every contract tomorrow, this company would survive because of you. Your talent, your dedication, your integrity. Those things can't be bought or faked. And they are what make Harper Industries special." Employees asked questions. Thomas answered honestly. By the end of the meeting, the worried expressions had eased. "We're with you," Catherine said, standing. "All of us. Whatever you need." The room erupted in applause. Rachel felt tears prick her eyes. This was what Thomas had built, not just a company, but a family. After the meeting, employees approached Rachel with offers to help. Greg volunteered to dig deeper into Lexington Development's own practices. Melissa offered to reach out to Memphis contacts who could vouch for Harper Industries. Brian suggested creating a video showcasing the company's community work. "We're not going to let them destroy what we've built," Brian said firmly. Rachel coordinated the efforts. Within days, they had a counter-campaign prepared. The video Brian produced was powerful, real families telling real stories about how Harper Industries had helped them. Not scripted, not polished, just honest testimonials. Rachel also discovered something interesting while researching Lexington Development. They claimed to have excellent employee benefits, but reviews from former employees told a different story. Low pay, no real insurance, hostile work environment, threats against anyone who complained. "This is what they are accusing us of," Rachel told Thomas, showing him the research. "They are projecting their own problems onto us." "Let's take the high road," Thomas decided. "We won't attack them. We'll just show who we really are. The truth will speak for itself." The Memphis City Council meeting was scheduled for the first week of April. Both companies would present their bids for the manufacturing facility project. Rachel accompanied Thomas, carrying the documentation they'd prepared. Lexington Development presented first. Their proposal was slick and professional, emphasizing cost savings and quick timelines. Their CEO mentioned the recent articles about Harper Industries, suggesting the city should be cautious about partnering with a company facing questions about their practices. Then it was Thomas's turn. He stood calmly and began speaking without notes. "We've been accused of using charity as a tax scheme," he said directly. "So I brought proof of what we actually do." He showed the video. Families talking about how Harper Industries had helped them find jobs, pay medical bills, access education. Non-profit leaders praising their partnership. Employees describing the supportive work environment. The council members watched in silence. Then Rachel presented the financial documentation. Every program, every dollar, completely transparent. The numbers showed that Harper Industries spent far more on community programs than they saved in taxes. "We don't help people for tax breaks," Thomas said. "We help people because it's right. Because we remember where we came from. Because businesses should strengthen communities, not just extract profit from them." He paused, looking at each council member. "Lexington Development has made accusations about our integrity. I won't return that favor. I'll simply say this: talk to our employees. Talk to the families we've helped. Talk to anyone who's worked with us. Then make your decision based on what you learn, not on rumors spread by competitors." The council asked questions. Rachel answered many of them, sharing specific examples of programs and their impact. She spoke about the resource fair, the mentorship program, the emergency assistance fund. One council member asked, "Why do you do all this? Most companies don't invest this heavily in community service." Thomas smiled. "Because 25 years ago, I was sleeping in my car. A man gave me a chance when no one else would. That changed my life. Everything we do is paying forward what Richard Coleman gave me. We believe businesses should serve communities, not just operate in them." The council thanked them and said they'd announce their decision in 2 weeks. Rachel and Thomas rode back to Nashville in thoughtful silence. "Do you think we won the contract?" Rachel finally asked. "I don't know," Thomas admitted. "But we told the truth. We showed who we are. That's all we can do." Back at the office, employees gathered around, wanting to know how it went. Thomas assured them they'd done their best. Then he did something unexpected. He threw a party. "We have nothing to apologize for," he announced. "Whatever happens with Memphis, we know our worth. Let's celebrate the good work we do." The office filled with food and music. Employees laughed and relaxed, the tension of recent weeks finally easing. Rachel stood with Tyler, who'd come straight from school, watching Thomas dance badly with Diane. Have you ever stood up for what's right even when it was hard? If this story inspires you, subscribe now and share your own experiences in the comments. Your story might encourage someone else who's facing challenges. "He's really something," Tyler observed. "He really is," Rachel agreed. The 2 weeks of waiting felt eternal. Rachel threw herself into planning the May resource fair, trying not to obsess over the Memphis decision. But she couldn't help checking her phone constantly, hoping for news. Finally, on a Wednesday afternoon, Thomas's assistant called her to his office. When Rachel walked in, his face was unreadable. "We got the contract," he said simply. Rachel screamed and hugged him. Thomas laughed, hugging her back. Within minutes, the entire office knew. Cheers echoed through the hallways. That evening, the Memphis City Council issued a statement explaining their decision. They'd spoken with Harper Industries employees and with families who'd been helped by the company's programs. The overwhelming feedback was that Harper Industries lived its values authentically. The council wanted to partner with a company that invested in communities, not just profits. Lexington Development issued a weak statement about respecting the council's decision. Privately, Rachel learned they'd withdrawn several similar accusations they'd been preparing to level against other competitors. The strategy had backfired. The next morning, the Nashville newspaper ran a front-page story. Harper Industries wins Memphis contract after community shows support. The article detailed how employees and community members had rallied to defend the company. Rachel's phone rang constantly with congratulations. Margaret Reynolds called to say several other businesses wanted to model their community programs after Harper Industries. A professor from Vanderbilt asked Rachel to speak to his business ethics class about corporate social responsibility. At the weekly staff meeting, Thomas made an announcement. This challenge showed us something important. We're not just a company. We're a community built on trust and genuine care for each other and for Nashville. I'm proud of every single person here. You stood up when it would have been easier to jump ship. That loyalty means everything to me. He paused, emotional. Richard Coleman told me that integrity is doing the right thing even when it costs you. This month, we proved we have integrity. Not because we won a contract, but because we stayed true to our values when they were questioned. That's what I'm most proud of. The room erupted in applause. Rachel found herself crying happy tears. They'd faced a real challenge and come through stronger. Later, sitting in her office, Rachel thought about everything that had happened. The accusations could have destroyed the company. But instead, they'd revealed just how strong the foundation Thomas had built really was. Employees loyal because they were treated well. Community support because the company genuinely helped people. Truth winning over lies because the truth was backed by real actions. It reminded her that kindness wasn't weakness. That doing right wasn't naive. That businesses built on compassion could be successful and strong. Thomas knocked on her door. "Thank you," he said simply, "for everything you did. The documentation, the research, the presentations. You helped save this company." "You saved me first," Rachel replied. "This was just returning the favor." "No," Thomas said. "This is you becoming the leader you were always meant to be. What you did required skills I don't have. You're not just paying back a debt. You're creating your own legacy." After he left, Rachel sat thinking about those words. Her own legacy. A year and a half ago, she'd been desperate and hopeless. Now she was helping build something meaningful. Something lasting. And the best part? This was only the beginning. She had so much more to do. So many more people to help. So many more challenges to face. But she wasn't afraid. She'd learned that when you stand for something right, people rally around you. When you lead with kindness and integrity, you build foundations that can't be shaken. The wave was still growing, and Rachel was riding it toward an even brighter future. Spring settled over Nashville with blooming dogwoods and warm afternoons. The May Resource Fair was approaching, but Rachel found herself distracted. Not by work problems, but by Thomas. She'd always admired him professionally, but lately, she'd noticed other things. How his eyes crinkled when he laughed. How he remembered small details about employees' lives. How he pushed up his sleeves when he worked, treating no task as beneath him. How he looked at her sometimes, with an expression she couldn't quite read. Rachel tried to dismiss the feelings. He was her boss. It would be inappropriate. But her heart didn't care about appropriateness. "You're staring at Mr. Harper again," Diane said one morning, appearing at Rachel's desk with coffee. Rachel's face burned. "I was not." "Yes, you were," Diane said, smiling. "And honey, he stares at you too when you're not looking." "That's ridiculous," Rachel protested. "He's just proud of my work." Diane said knowingly. "Keep telling yourself that." Rachel tried to focus on work, but Diane's words echoed in her mind. Did Thomas have feelings for her? Or was she reading too much into his kindness? The question became harder to ignore when Thomas invited her to lunch the following week. "Not a meeting," he clarified. "Just lunch. To celebrate everything you've accomplished." They went to a quiet restaurant downtown. Conversation flowed easily, touching on everything from business to personal stories. Thomas talked about his years building the company, the mistakes he'd made, the lessons he'd learned. Rachel shared more about her childhood, her mother's abandonment, her fears and hopes for Tyler's future. "He's doing so well now," Thomas said. "Because of you." "Because of you," Rachel corrected. "If you hadn't helped us, then someone else would have," Thomas said. "You're the kind of person who finds a way. You're strong, Rachel. Stronger than you know." Their eyes met across the table. The moment stretched, charged with something unspoken. I should get back, Rachel said finally, breaking the tension. The resource fair planning. Right, Thomas agreed, signaling for the check. The ride back to the office was quieter. Rachel stared out the window, her heart racing. She couldn't deny it anymore. She had feelings for Thomas. Real, deep feelings. But what could she do about it? He was her boss. Getting involved would be complicated and potentially damaging to her career. People might say she'd used him for advancement. The thought made her sick. That evening, Diane cornered her in the break room. Okay, spill. What happened at lunch? Nothing happened, Rachel said. Your face says otherwise. Rachel sighed and told Diane everything. The feelings she'd been fighting. The lunch conversation. Her confusion about what to do. Diane listened carefully. Here's what I think, she said finally. Thomas is a good man. He wouldn't let personal feelings affect how he treats employees. If he cares about you, and I think he does, it's because of who you are, not what position you hold. But you both need to be honest with each other. Not telling him isn't protecting anyone. It's just creating confusion. What if I'm wrong? Rachel asked. What if I tell him, and he doesn't feel the same way? That would make work so awkward. What if you're right? Diane countered. What if he's feeling the same way but won't say anything because he's your boss and doesn't want to pressure you? Someone has to be brave here. Rachel went home that night thinking about Diane's advice. Tyler noticed her distraction immediately. What's wrong? He asked. Rachel debated not telling him, but Tyler had always been mature for his age. She explained the situation. Tyler was quiet for a moment. Mr. Harper is a good guy, he said finally. He helped us when nobody else would. If you have feelings for him, that's not wrong. And if he has feelings for you, it's probably because you're amazing, not because of your job. When did you get so wise? Rachel asked. I learned from you, Tyler said simply. You taught me that taking chances leads to good things. You took a chance accepting Mr. Harper's help. Maybe it's time to take another chance. The next day, Rachel tried to work up the courage to talk to Thomas. But every time she approached his office, she lost her nerve. This went on for days. Then Greg took matters into his own hands. He asked Rachel to help him with a project that turned out to be in Thomas's office after hours. When she arrived, Greg was nowhere in sight, but Thomas was there working late. Greg asked me to. Rachel started. He set us up, Thomas said, smiling slightly. I think he coordinated with Diane. They are meddling, Rachel said. They care about us, Thomas corrected. He put down his pen and looked at her directly. Rachel, I need to say something. And I need you to know there's no pressure. Your job is secure regardless of how you respond. Okay. Rachel nodded, her heart pounding. I've been trying to ignore this, Thomas continued. You're my employee. I'm your boss. Getting involved could be complicated. But I can't ignore it anymore. Rachel, I have feelings. For you. Real feelings. I think about you constantly. I admire your passion and your kindness. I look forward to seeing you every day. And I'm hoping maybe you feel something similar. Rachel felt tears spring to her eyes. I do, she said softly. I've been trying to fight it because I was worried about what people would think. That they'd say I used you or that you gave me opportunities because of personal feelings rather than my abilities. Your abilities speak for themselves, Thomas said firmly. You've earned every promotion, every success. Anyone who knows you knows that. He stood and walked closer to her. But we can take this slow. We don't have to tell anyone, yet if you're not comfortable. We can just see where it goes. I'd like that, Rachel said. Thomas smiled, and Rachel thought her heart might burst. He reached out and took her hand gently. The touch sent electricity through her. I'm glad, he said softly. I've been hoping you'd feel the same way. They stood there for a moment, holding hands, both smiling like teenagers. Then Rachel laughed. Diane is going to be so smug about this. Greg too, Thomas agreed, laughing. They are probably watching us right now. They weren't wrong. The next morning, both Diane and Greg had knowing smiles when Rachel arrived at work. Don't say anything, Rachel warned them. "We're just happy for you," Diane said innocently. Rachel shook her head but couldn't stop smiling. She and Thomas had talked late into the night, making plans for their first real date. They'd agreed to keep things private at first, at least until they figured out where the relationship was going. Their first date was dinner at a small restaurant outside Nashville, where they wouldn't run into co-workers. They talked for hours, sharing stories and dreams. Thomas spoke about wanting to expand Harper Industries' community work nationally. Rachel shared her vision for creating a network of resource centers across Tennessee. "We could do that together," Thomas said. "Build something that helps people everywhere." "I'd like that," Rachel replied. The relationship developed gradually. Private dinners, long phone conversations in the evenings, stolen moments at the office when no one was around. Rachel felt like she was living in a dream. This kind, generous man who'd saved her life now wanted to share his life with her. Tyler approved wholeheartedly. "He makes you happy," he observed. "That's what matters." But they kept it quiet at work for weeks, wanting to be sure the relationship was real before making it public. Rachel worried about how employees would react, whether it would change how they saw her. "Your work speaks for itself," Thomas reminded her constantly. "Anyone who questions your abilities hasn't been paying attention." 2 months into their relationship, they decided to tell the company. Thomas called an all-staff meeting. "I have an announcement," he said. "Rachel Bennett and I are in a relationship. We've been dating for 2 months. I want everyone to know, because transparency is important. I also want to make something clear. Rachel's position and success have nothing to do with our personal relationship. She earned everything through hard work and talent. Our relationship developed because of our shared values and mutual respect." Questions. There was a moment of surprised silence. Then Greg started clapping. Others joined in. Soon the entire room was applauding. "About time," Diane called out. "We've been watching you two make eyes at each other for months." People laughed. The tension broke. Employees came up to congratulate them, genuine happiness in their faces. Later, Catherine pulled Rachel aside. "I'm happy for you both," she said. "Thomas deserves someone who understands his heart. And you deserve someone who sees your worth." "Thank you," Rachel said, relieved by the acceptance. That evening, Rachel and Thomas had dinner with Tyler. The three of them sat around the table in Rachel's apartment, comfortable and happy. "So are you guys going to get married?" Tyler asked bluntly. "Tyler," Rachel said, embarrassed. But Thomas just laughed. "We're taking things one day at a time," he said. "But yes, that's definitely something I'm thinking about for the future." Rachel felt her heart skip. They hadn't talked about marriage yet, but knowing Thomas saw that future possibility made her happier than she could express. As Tyler cleared dishes, Thomas took Rachel's hand. "I want you to know something," he said quietly. "When I helped you in that parking lot, I saw someone struggling but refusing to give up. I saw strength and determination. Over these months, I've learned just how right I was about you. You're extraordinary, Rachel. And I'm grateful every day that I followed you outside that night." "I'm grateful too," Rachel said, squeezing his hand. "For everything. The job, the opportunities, this. You gave me a second chance at life." "You gave yourself that," Thomas corrected. "I just opened the door. You're the one who walked through it and built something amazing." They sat together as the sun set outside the window, planning their future. A future that included expanding community programs, helping more families, and building a life together. Rachel thought about how far she'd come. From a desperate girl begging for milk to a director creating real change. From hopeless to hopeful. From alone to loved. All because one person had chosen kindness. And now she and Thomas were choosing to spend their lives spreading that kindness as far as possible. Together. Summer arrived hot and humid. The resource fairs had become monthly events, serving thousands of families. The mentorship program had expanded to 10 schools. Harper Industries was featured in national business publications as a model for corporate social responsibility. Rachel's work had attracted attention beyond Nashville. In July, a large nonprofit organization based in Boston called Harrison International Development reached out. They were looking for someone to lead their North American operations, overseeing community programs across the United States and Canada. It's an incredible opportunity, the recruiter said on the phone. 6-figure salary, substantial budget, nationwide impact. We've been following your work in Nashville. You're exactly who we need. Rachel thanked her and said she'd think about it. But her stomach churned. Boston. Across the country from Nashville. From Thomas. From the life she'd built. She didn't mention it to Thomas at first. They'd been dating for 4 months now, happy and comfortable. She didn't want to disrupt what they had. But Greg noticed her distraction. "What's wrong?" he asked one morning. Rachel told him about the offer. Greg whistled low. "That's huge. National impact. Big money. Are you considering it?" "I don't know," Rachel admitted. "It's an amazing opportunity professionally. But it means leaving Nashville. Leaving Thomas. Leaving everything I've built here." "What does Thomas say?" "I haven't told him yet." Greg raised an eyebrow. "You need to tell him. He deserves to know." Rachel knew he was right. That evening, she and Thomas had dinner at his house, a modest but comfortable home, despite his wealth. She'd learned that Thomas lived simply, pouring most of his money back into the business and charity work. "Something's bothering you," Thomas observed over dessert. "What is it?" Rachel took a breath and told him everything. The Boston offer, the opportunity, her confusion about what to do. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. "That's an incredible opportunity," he finally said. "I know. You should take it." Rachel felt her heart sink. "You want me to leave?" "No," Thomas said firmly. "I don't want you to leave at all. But I want you to do what's best for your career. This is a chance to help people all over the country. To make an even bigger impact. I can't ask you to give that up for me." "What about us?" Rachel asked. "We'll figure it out," Thomas said. "Long distance, frequent visits. If we're meant to be together, geography won't stop us." But Rachel saw the pain in his eyes. He was saying the right things, putting her needs first, but it was costing him. "I need to think about this," she said. Over the next week, Rachel agonized over the decision. She made a list of pros and cons. Boston, bigger impact, more money, national platform. Nashville, Thomas, her established programs, Tyler's final year of high school, the community she'd built. She talked to Diane, who was characteristically direct. "What do you actually want? Not what makes sense on paper. What does your heart want?" Rachel knew the answer immediately. She wanted to stay in Nashville. She wanted to build a life with Thomas. She wanted to continue the work she'd started here. But was she making a mistake? Passing up a major opportunity for a relationship? What if things didn't work out with Thomas? Tyler weighed in one evening. "You're overthinking this," he said. "You left the diner for a better job at Harper Industries, right? But this isn't the same. You're not leaving something bad. You've built something really good here. And you're in love with Mr. Harper, whether you admit it or not. Don't leave something good chasing something that just looks better on paper." "When did you become so wise?" Rachel asked for the second time. "I told you," Tyler said, grinning. "I learn from the best." Rachel made her decision. She called the Boston recruiter the next morning. "I'm honored by the offer, but I'm going to stay in Nashville. I've built something meaningful here, and I'm not ready to leave it." "Are you sure?" the recruiter asked. "This opportunity won't come around again." "I'm sure," Rachel said firmly. "But thank you for thinking of me." After hanging up, Rachel felt peace wash over her. She'd made the right choice. Money and prestige weren't everything. Love and community and purpose mattered more. She went to Thomas's office immediately. He was on a conference call, but when he saw her face through the glass, he quickly wrapped it up. "I turned down Boston," Rachel said as soon as he hung up. Thomas stood. "Rachel, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did," she interrupted. "Not because you asked me to. Because I wanted to. Thomas, I could go to Boston and help thousands of people. Or I could stay here and help thousands of people while building a life with someone I love. That second option sounds a lot better to me." "You love me?" Thomas asked softly. "Of course I love you," Rachel said. "I've loved you since probably the second week I worked here. I was just too scared to admit it." Thomas crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. I love you too, he said. I have for months. I was going to tell you, but then the Boston thing happened, and I didn't want you to feel obligated to stay. I'm not staying out of obligation, Rachel said firmly. I'm staying because this is where I belong. With you. Doing work that matters. Building a future together. They stood there holding each other, both crying happy tears. A knock on the door interrupted them. Greg poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but the whole office heard you yelling about love through the door. We're all very happy for you, but could you maybe keep it down a bit? Rachel laughed, embarrassed. Thomas just grinned. Tell everyone to come to the conference room in 10 minutes. I have an announcement. When the staff gathered, Thomas was holding Rachel's hand. Rachel was offered an amazing job in Boston, he began. It would have taken her away from us. But she chose to stay, and I want to make sure staying is the right choice. He turned to Rachel. I'm creating a new position, Vice President of Community Impact. It reports directly to me and oversees all charitable and community programs for Harper Industries and our foundation. The salary matches what Boston offered. The impact will be just as significant, because we're going to expand our program statewide. What do you say? Rachel felt tears streaming down her face. Yes, she managed. Absolutely yes. The staff erupted in applause. Diane was crying. Greg was grinning. Catherine was nodding approvingly. There's one more thing, Thomas said to the room. Then he turned back to Rachel, pulling a small box from his pocket. Rachel's breath caught. I had a whole plan for this, Thomas said, dropping to one knee. A fancy restaurant, perfect timing, the right words. But I realized something. Our story isn't about perfect moments. It's about real moments. Like you crying in a parking lot, and me deciding to care. Like you transforming your life through hard work. Like us falling in love while building something meaningful together. He opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. Rachel Bennett, you're the kindest, strongest, most inspiring person I've ever met. You make me better. You make the world better. Will you marry me? Rachel was sobbing now, barely able to speak. Yes, she managed. Yes, of course yes. Thomas slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss. The office erupted in cheers and applause. Diane was full on crying now. Even Catherine looked emotional. When they finally pulled apart, Rachel looked at the ring through tears. It was perfect, elegant but not ostentatious, with a single diamond surrounded by smaller stones. Exactly her style. I've been carrying that for 2 months, Thomas admitted. Waiting for the right moment. Boston forced my hand. Best wrong timing ever, Rachel said, laughing through tears. The rest of the day was a blur of congratulations and celebration. Tyler came to the office after school, and Rachel watched him hug Thomas with genuine affection. Her little family was growing. That evening, the three of them had dinner together at Thomas's house. Tyler regaled them with stories from school, while Rachel kept staring at her ring, barely believing this was real. I have something to tell you both, Tyler said as they finished eating. I got accepted to Tennessee State University. Full scholarship for computer science. Tyler, that's amazing, Rachel exclaimed, hugging him. Brian helped me with the application, Tyler explained. And Mr. Harper, Thomas, wrote me a recommendation letter. You earned that scholarship, Thomas said. Your grades and hard work got you there. Still, Tyler said, none of this would have happened if you hadn't helped us. I'd probably be working minimum wage and trying to take care of Rachel instead of going to college. That's how it works, Thomas said gently. Someone helps you. You work hard. Then you help someone else. The cycle continues. Rachel looked at her brother and her future husband, her heart full. They'd all been transformed by kindness. And now they'd spend their lives spreading that kindness as far as possible. Later, as she lay in bed, Rachel thought about the choice she'd made. Boston had been tempting. But this, Nashville, Thomas, the work they were building together, this was everything she actually wanted. She'd learned that the best opportunities aren't always the ones that look most impressive on paper. Sometimes the best choice is the one that lets you build a life full of love and purpose. And she'd made exactly the right choice. The wedding took place in September, in a Nashville park surrounded by dogwood trees and friends. Rachel wore a simple blue dress, refusing anything elaborate. Thomas wore a navy suit. Tyler stood as Rachel's best man, proud and beaming. Diane officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. "I've watched these two fall in love while transforming this city," she said to the gathered crowd. "Individually, they're remarkable. Together, they're unstoppable." The guest list included everyone who mattered: Harper Industries employees, non-profit partners, families they'd helped, community leaders. Margaret Reynolds sat in the front row, wiping happy tears. Greg stood beside Thomas, grinning. Catherine actually smiled throughout the ceremony. "Thomas Harper saved my life," Rachel said in her vows. "But more than that, he showed me how to save my own life. He taught me that kindness isn't weakness, that helping others makes us stronger, that wealth isn't about money, it's about making the world better. I promise to spend every day living those lessons and spreading that kindness as far as I can reach. I love you." Thomas's vows were simple. "Rachel, you took the chance I gave you and multiplied it 1,000 times. You inspire me every day. You make me want to do more, help more, be more. I promise to support your dreams and our shared mission. I love you." They kissed as husband and wife, while everyone cheered. The reception was simple but joyful, with food donated by local restaurants and music from a friend's band. Rachel danced with Tyler, with Thomas, with Greg, with Diane. She felt purely, completely happy. As the sun set, Thomas pulled her aside. "Mrs. Harper," he said, testing the name. "How does it sound?" "Perfect," Rachel replied. "Everything is perfect." They honeymooned in the Smoky Mountains, just a week away from Nashville. Rachel couldn't be gone longer. Too many projects needed her attention. But that week was magical, hiking trails and sitting by a cabin fireplace, talking about their future. "I want to expand statewide by next year," Rachel said one evening. "Resource centers in Memphis, Knoxville, Chattanooga, every major city. Monthly resource fairs in each location. A network of support for every struggling family in Tennessee." "Let's do it," Thomas agreed immediately. "It will cost millions," Rachel warned. "We have millions," Thomas replied. "And this is what we're here for." They returned to Nashville energized and ready to work. Rachel dove into planning the statewide expansion. She hired 3 regional coordinators, secured office space in 4 cities, and began building partnerships with local nonprofits. The program launched in January, exactly 2 years after Rachel's first day at Harper Industries. In those 2 years, she'd gone from desperate and hopeless to vice president of a major company, married to a man she adored, leading programs that helped thousands of families. Tyler started college in the spring, living on campus but coming home most weekends. Brian continued mentoring him, and Tyler was excelling in his computer science courses. He'd also started volunteering at the Resource Center, helping teach coding to kids from struggling families. "I'm just paying it forward," he told Rachel when she expressed pride. "Someone helped us. Now I help others. That's how it works." The statewide expansion was challenging. Each city had unique needs and circumstances. But Rachel's team was dedicated and skilled. By summer, all 4 resource centers were running monthly events, serving over 10,000 families collectively. Harper Industries thrived as well. The Memphis manufacturing facility opened on schedule, creating hundreds of jobs. New contracts came steadily, with clients specifically wanting to work with a company known for strong values. Thomas's model of compassionate business was proving that doing good and doing well weren't mutually exclusive. One afternoon in June, Rachel was reviewing applications for the educational fund when she noticed a familiar name. Beth Collins, the young woman Rachel had helped at the first community event. She was applying for scholarship assistance to continue her education. Rachel called her immediately. "Beth, how are you?" "Rachel," Beth's voice came through warm and grateful. "I'm good. Really good. I was hoping I could talk to you about maybe getting some education help. I've been working as a receptionist, saving money, and I want to go back to school for nursing." "Come to my office tomorrow," Rachel said. "Let's talk about it." The next day, Beth arrived nervous but hopeful. Rachel approved her scholarship application on the spot, full tuition coverage for nursing school. "I can't accept this," Beth protested. "It's too much." Yes, you can, Rachel said firmly, remembering saying the same thing to Thomas. You're working hard. You deserve this chance. Take it. Beth cried grateful tears. Thank you. You've changed my life. Someone changed mine, Rachel replied. Now you'll go on to help others. That's how it works. After Beth left, Rachel sat thinking about the ripple effects of kindness. Thomas had helped her. She'd help Beth. Beth would become a nurse and help countless patients. Those patients would go on to impact others. The wave kept growing, spreading, touching more lives than anyone could count. In August, Rachel got a call from the convenience store, where her story had begun. The owner wanted to meet with her. Rachel drove over, memories flooding back. The parking lot where she'd collapsed. The counter where she'd begged for milk. It felt like a lifetime ago. The owner, Mrs. Kim, greeted her warmly. I've been following your work, she said. What you've built is amazing. I wanted to apologize for that night. My employee followed store policy, but I've always felt bad about it. You don't need to apologize, Rachel said gently. That night changed my life for the better. If you'd let me pay later, I might never have met Thomas. Everything happened the way it was supposed to. Still, Mrs. Kim said, I want to do better. I want to create a community fund here. Customers can donate, and we use it to help people who can't afford food. Would you help me set it up? Rachel agreed immediately. Within weeks, the store had a program where customers could contribute to a fund that covered groceries for those in need. Signs invited people to ask for help without shame. It became a model that other stores adopted. On the second anniversary of Thomas helping her in that parking lot, Rachel insisted they return to the convenience store. They stood in the spot where she'd collapsed, where Thomas had offered help, where everything had changed. 2 years ago, I was here begging for milk, Rachel said softly. Today, we're here because that store is helping dozens of families every week. That's what kindness does. It multiplies. It does, Thomas agreed, holding her hand. And you're the one who multiplied it most. They went inside and bought milk, the same brand Rachel had needed that night. Then they drove to the community center and donated it to families who needed it. As they left, they passed a young woman standing outside, looking lost and afraid. She was thin, her clothes worn, her expression desperate. Rachel saw herself in that woman's face. She approached gently. Are you okay? The woman's eyes filled with tears. I'm trying to figure out where the food bank is. I have 2 kids at home. We haven't eaten in 2 days. Rachel and Thomas exchanged glances. We can help you with that, Rachel said. But first, let's get you and your kids some groceries right now. And then we can talk about some other resources that might help your situation. They spent 2 hours with the woman, whose name was Jennifer. They bought her groceries. They connected her with the resource center. Rachel helped her apply for job openings at Harper Industries. Before they left, Rachel gave Jennifer her business card. Call me if you need anything, Rachel said. Day or night. You're not alone. Jennifer hugged her tightly, crying. Thank you. You're an angel. I'm not an angel, Rachel said gently. I'm just someone who's been where you are. And I promise you, things can get better. They really can. In the car, Thomas took Rachel's hand. You just did for her what I did for you. That's the point, Rachel said. That's what this whole thing is about. Recognizing when we can help and choosing to do it. Not looking away. Not pretending we don't see the struggle. Actually caring and actually helping. I love you, Thomas said simply. I love you too. They drove home as the sun set over Nashville, the city lights beginning to twinkle. Rachel thought about how far she'd come. From desperate poverty to meaningful wealth. From hopeless to hopeful. From alone to loved. From help to helper. She thought about the thousands of families they'd assisted. The programs they'd created. The lives they'd changed. And she thought about all the work still to be done, all the people still struggling, all the kindness left to spread. Next year, she said to Thomas, I want to go national. Resource centers in every state. A network of support for every struggling family in America. Let's do it, Thomas said without hesitation. We'll make it happen. Rachel smiled. With Thomas beside her, she believed they could do anything. They'd proven that kindness wasn't naive, that compassion and success could coexist, that businesses could be forces for good. But more than that, they'd proven that one act of kindness could change everything, that helping one person could create a ripple effect that touched thousands, that choosing to care when it would be easier to look away could transform entire communities. As they pulled into their driveway, a modest house they'd bought together, nothing ostentatious, Rachel looked at her husband and thought about their future. A future full of love, purpose, and endless opportunities to help others. She thought about that girl in the parking lot 2 years ago, desperate and crying. If she could go back and tell that girl what was coming, the job, the success, the marriage, the impact, that girl would never believe it. But it had all happened. Every impossible, beautiful bit of it. All because one man had chosen kindness. And because she'd chosen to accept that kindness and multiply it endlessly. The wave was still growing, spreading across Tennessee and soon across America. And Rachel Harper was going to ride that wave as far as it would take her, helping as many people as she possibly could along the way. Because that's what you did when someone gave you a second chance. You took it. You multiplied it. And you spent the rest of your life giving second chances to everyone you could reach. That was the real meaning of success. Not money or power or prestige, but using whatever you had to lift others up, to spread hope, to prove that kindness was the most powerful force in the world. Rachel had learned that lesson in a convenience store parking lot, and she'd spend the rest of her life teaching it to anyone who would listen. The wave of kindness continued, and it would never stop.